A good friend of mine, Paola Guthrie. We have known each other for several years now. We trained together through the Neuroencoding Institute, and she is a life coach. And so I brought her on today because she is a just bank of knowledge about all things related to kids. She has three of her own, ages 6, 12, right? And 17, almost 18. So she covers this span, and I'm so excited to have her on today. So, Paola, do you want to give a little intro about yourself?
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you for inviting me, Laura. I'm feel honored to be here with you all today. I am a life coach. I study under Dr. Amen with brain health and Dr. Joseph McClendon III with neuroencoding. I also have a science degree. I have all my pre-meds because I wanted to be a doctor when I was younger.
Mhm.
And I am a science teacher right now at the high school.
That's amazing. So, what's so cool about you is you have like all these different avenues to have connections to teens and tweens. And so, you've got your own kids, you're a high school teacher, and you're also doing some kind of parent coaching. So, you have connection to kids through other moms and supporting moms in specifically Latina moms in the Hispanic community, Spanish speaking moms. And so, you have just like an awesome way of like connecting through all these different avenues. So, what do you feel like is right now kind of like the biggest thing you're seeing with moms who are struggling with connecting with their teenagers?
I have seen that, moms are trying to do their best to connect with their kid. I think we're doing an awesome job. What do you think is like these new generations of moms are just trying to do better than what our parents did? Like
Mhm.
there's more knowledge, there's more content. So they are trying to connect with these kids and their kids sometimes is like they shut down. They're like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm
Mhm.
not ready. So mom panics, because they just don't know what are the right words, what are the right questions, what is just the right avenue to get to their kid. So I've seen parents like struggle
Mhm.
and even cry because they want to help their kid. They want to be there for them.
Mhm.
uh, so that's what I have seen. And I've been able to like give them strategies, and techniques, certain questions of how to start a communication, uh, family activities, it's always good.
Mhm. Mhm.
And w- also, we probably need to breathe because, like I said, I seen them that they worry too much. It's
Yeah.
like you all are doing an awesome job.
Yeah.
Oh, if you care, is because you are doing a good job.
Right, right. So it's almost like, in a way, moms identify part of their job description is to worry. Like it almost feels like we're not doing something right if we're not worrying. That means then we start worry that we're not worrying. Like, are we doing a good
Yes.
job? Right. And so it's this
Yeah.
like this loop of like, oh, are we good enough? That's probably this endless loop question. Like there's never gonna be an answer to that because right, it's just like impossible.
Yes. And we compare. And here we go, parents. You don't have to compare to your neighbor's parenting skills. And you don't have to compare to your friend's parenting skills because you are unique. Your kids are unique.
Mm.
The environment that they are growing up is like you have it under control. So sometimes whenever we look at the other side and we're like, oh, but those kids are going to music lessons and soccer lessons and this and that. And I'm like, I'm barely keeping up with my life. What am I doing? Sometimes we buy into that stress whenever we compare. And
Mhm.
we have to remember that, whenever we compare to others, it's just to see what is possible. We could just take back a few steps and it's like, oh, that's cool. That they're making it possible. It's like, what a
Mhm.
blessing. That's good. But
Mhm.
then refocus on what's the goal for your family because it could be completely different than the family that you're looking at.
Totally. Yeah, we get so caught up in like FOMO, like it's like FOMO on steroids. Like, oh, they're doing this tutor and they have this lesson and this and that. And it's like, are we doing enough to provide the opportunities for our kids? And in that process, A, we're draining ourselves of our energy. And B, in my opinion, what I think is we're teaching our kids that kind of comparison, model as well. And that's setting them up for kind of a future of that social comparison, which we all know can lead to a lot of mental health issues and kind of like stress, anxiety, overwhelm, depression because we feel like we're never good enough. How could we be good enough if we're trying to compare ourselves to someone else? Yeah, you're only your best you, right? So it's like all about
Yes.
you. Is that how you feel?
Yes, of course. And then, find the way that whenever we fall into that pattern, it's like, how are we going to get out? Figure out a way that is like, okay, this is my awakening call, where it's like, this is my family, this is my kids, this is our goal.
Yeah.
That's have nothing to do with my neighbor. That's have nothing to do, with my friends' kids over here. Because sometimes we fall into that loop and it's stressful.
I love that you said that because that actually ties perfectly with what I posted in the moms group yesterday, which is how to write a family mission statement. And so it's all about like setting up your intention as a family and kind of having some goals and identity about who you want to be in your family and what do you stand for. So I kind of love what you said in that, because what it is it's kind of like putting on these horse blinders that is blocking you from that negative comparison. And it's kind of like, let's just figure out who we want to be and not worry about everybody else, right?
Yes, yes. Like today, I asked my kids, I took my 12-year-old and my almost 6-year-old for a treat. We're going to go to the park. And I'm like, hey, how is this summer going? How is this summer turning around? Is this what you expected?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very honest conversation. They were like, mom, it's like, it's going really well. This is what I have been enjoying. Wish we were in Mexico already because we're going to go visit my family.
Oh, awesome.
But it was a good, conversation, and it could be a conversation that you could have with your kid this summer. How's your summer going? What
Mm-hmm.
did you expect? Is there something we could do to make it a little bit more fun? It could be like, maybe we haven't gone swimming yet. Like it could be just maybe we haven't gone for an ice cream yet. It could be something simple, but it adds value to the family.
I love that. That's so cute.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like kids, well, we all do it. We all have this like vision or image for how something's going to go. And my example for that is always, Christmas morning. Like everybody always thinks Christmas morning is going to be this magical thing and we're all getting along and all the gifts are perfect and everybody got what they wanted and it's the image thing. And then when the reality is like, oh, she's not happy with that. That doesn't fit. That's broken. Oh, shoot, I forgot to wrap that. Oh, it didn't arrive. The Amazon package never came, and then this like idealist vision that we have kind of crumbles when the reality sets in. So I love how you're like kind of doing this midway check, because we're in July, still plenty of time that if they say, oh, mom, I really wanted to blah, 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 you can still make that happen. There's still time. They're like, okay, so I love your idea, like getting their input and asking them like kind of what they're wanting out of it.
Yes, and same thing with a trip. I was like, I'm gonna ask them what are three things that you are expecting out from this trip. Or
Oh,
is like we can all meet, that middle ground where it's like it's not too stressful on mom, but it's not too stressful on them, but it's like to make sure that they meet those expectations.
uh-huh.
So the whenever we talk about how was the trip, how can we improve it, next year? What do you think it could, gone better? Then at least I know what to expect. But I think it's like taking them into consideration and always bring them down to the budget. Don't I know like, oh, we want to go to Hawaii and swim with the dolphins. It's like, no, 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 no. It's like always bring it to your budget,
Mm,
and ask, well, what are your expectations,
right, right.
for this trip or this summer. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be expensive. We create the moments.
Yes, exactly.
We create the moments here, there, or anywhere we go. We create the moments. Like yesterday was 4th of July. I
Mhm.
felt a little bit guilty because I didn't buy enough fireworks. The only fireworks that my kids got was from my father-in-law and my mother-in-law.
Okay.
And I told my husband, "Is like, okay, we probably need to go buy fireworks," but he didn't proceed to buy more. So I didn't want to add any stress. I was like, well, there is a reason why.
Yeah.
So I enjoy the moment. We had plenty fireworks,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
just sat down, and once ours were all gone, then we enjoy the neighbors.
There you go.
Yeah, and we just, we sat down, we watched. It was a family connecting time, just talking to each other. And I'm like, oh, wow, my guilt didn't, you know, I let it go because it's like we didn't need anymore. We had enough already with what
Um, I love that. Like, how
Yeah.
did you? Because that's the other big thing. Like, besides mom, the comparison thing that we do, guilt. Mom guilt is real. It's a real big thing. We all suffer from it, and it's awful. And so, how were you able to let go of that guilt and that in that moment? Like, what did you say to yourself?
Just to be present, like
Mm,
really be present, because there were my oldest one was lighting the fireworks and we had plenty. It was just the idea that we didn't purchase any,
oh,
you
okay.
know, and I didn't want to add the stress to my husband, you know, like maybe he thought there were plenty, you
Yeah,
know. And I was like, I wonder why he didn't want to buy more. And
yeah.
I just did, you know, this is good, you know. In my mind is like, this is good, it'll go well. But in the back of my mind, I still had that, like, ooh, I should have, you know, purchased for our kids
Right.
fireworks. But even, you know, it's like, sink it in. It's like being grateful. Over
Mhm.
all five of us were outside. We were sitting, enjoying the view, enjoying each other, laughing, and it's like, oh, I like that one. Oh, that one's a good firework. Oh, and the kids just, you know, talking and being authentic.
Yeah, yeah, just you're right. Just like it sounds like just
Yeah,
being in the moment and
yeah,
enjoying and being grateful for what you have, and just like kind of like letting go from that whole extra because you know it's
yeah,
that's the other thing. We always feel like more is better. Like we always like more, more, more,
yes,
do more for our kids, buy more, have more, go on more vacations, right? And so instead of
yeah,
just like being grateful for what we do have and focusing on that, on creating those moments, just like what you're saying, and it doesn't need to be a big budget. You know, it's all up to you as far as you creating that connection with your kids. That's so cool. I love
yes.
those examples. I actually heard of an example recently of this is no one I know, but someone saw, oh no, it actually was a friend of mine, saw a family at a gas station at a picnic table having their son's birthday party, or not a birthday party, but just like a
Oh,
family thing. And
yeah,
it's like, you know, they were happy. And he said he observed this, he saw this, and he goes, they just looked happy. And it's crazy because it like, I would have never thought to have a birthday party at a gas station. Although once we celebrated my son when he was little, he wanted snow cones instead of cake. So we went out for snow cones and we just sat on these little picnic tables in the back. And I literally brought a candle and tried to stick in the snow cone. And that, you know, I think it was too windy or something. But it's funny how like it's all about that moment, you know, and
yeah.
creating what you can on your budget and within your time and just making it special for your own family, right?
Yeah, how you make them feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's more than what they get, but it's like what we feel in that moment, the gratitude. You know, like yesterday looking at the fireworks, and I'm like, oh wow, it's like feeling that gratitude, celebrating Independence Day, and having my loved ones right next to me. So
Well, that's making me think of two more questions, but we're going to just take a few more minutes and it's not a rush, but you know, what do you do when you feel like one of your kids isn't kind of on board, or do you ever have a time where they're getting grumpy or they're not being grateful? Like you're trying to create this great environment and they're like resisting that or they're not happy. Like what do you do in those moments?
we take a break.
Good
We
idea.
take up, especially the 6-year-old and the 12-year-old. And here I'm starting to figure out that their brain needs that drama. They need, you know, like they need that drama for some reason. And I'm noticing like this summer. So I said, okay, it's time to take a break. You know,
Mm,
whatever they're doing is like put electronics down. Let's go outside. Help me pick up some twigs, wood, put it in the fire pit.
mhm.
Or if we're in the house, if it's raining, I said, let's just go take a break, breathe, and then we'll come back.
Ah, I
And then
love.
we can talk. And then we can talk about it.
I almost felt like your teacher voice coming out there for a second. Like it's
Ah,
that's good. And then last question is what is your special kind of advice because you have a 17-year, almost 18-year-old? I have several 18-year-old clients now. It's really cool because I'm helping them with a lot of like life skills and this period of transition that they're in and learning how. I just got off with a client who is working on using his calendar and replying to emails, and he had to make deadlines because he's meeting with his college advisor and picking courses. So you know you've got this older son, so what is your advice on like dealing with that older teenager? Because there are some moms who, you know, they've got 12, 13, 14-year olds, but they don't really know what's ahead. You are on the other side of this. You kind of know what that future is. Like, what is that like for you?
I would ask questions. Yeah, I would say, hey, when would be a good time for you to work on this work application? Because my son is working. It's awesome seeing him. Has a summer job, 8 to 5, he has to fill in his timesheet
Mm-hmm.
and turn it in on Friday
Mm-hmm.
in order for him to get paid. So he did get paid
Yeah.
on time. On time, so he's doing a good job. He's getting up at 7 o'clock. Anyway, so he's doing good. So I'm proud of him. I would ask questions. I would be like, hey, when would be a good time for you to work on this assignment, or when would be a good time for you and I, to get to look at what you
Mhm.
have to do next week, or like, I think asking questions, it's better than telling them like, oh, you have to do this.
Because you meet that resistance, and then that kind of that it
Yes, and
never really goes very well, does it?
yeah, yeah, and also it's like, oh, how was it? Like when if your son goes and talks to the supervisor and you know about it, it's like, okay, how was the experience? How do you feel? Talking to a supervisor for the first time. It's like trying to make it like is a neat and new experience
Mhm.
that I am so excited that you're experiencing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love how everything you frame is so positive, and I'm a positive person. I love how you just like put it, because you're putting it in his hands and you're saying it with just such a smile on his face and such like kind of optimism. It's almost like you're expecting a positive answer in return. So I feel like that probably is setting him up in a really good way, because you're not coming at him in a negative way, or making demands. Like you're saying, you're just asking that question, putting the ball in his court, and hoping he bounces it back. And I'm sure, I don't know if this has happened with your son, but I know some boys who are real resistant. And I think that is because like the mom is coming at them with this negative energy, and she says she can't understand why her son needs to make some medical appointments and he's not making them. And she goes, I just don't know why he won't do it. And so I'm like, I'm not coaching her, but I'm just listening to her. And, I think kind of like what you just said is like, you're asking questions instead of saying, why aren't you? It's like, oh, when is a good time? Right. It's like just a simple shift. Right.
Yeah, and when we act like you're talking about that, your friend or the person you're talking about, that with is fear. In reality, it's fear because I've done it too. But it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, this has to be done, and sometimes you don't find the way. But now that I am a coach, then I'm aware. I'm aware that it's fear
Yeah.
that's driving me, because I want to be a good mom for him, and I
Yeah.
want him to do well. But
Yeah.
sometimes we don't know the steps to
Mm-hmm.
get there, and it's
Yeah.
fear the one that's driving us. Because I've done it. I used to do it,
Mm-hmm.
especially with my oldest one, because it's the fear of like, what if he doesn't do it on time? It's my job to be a good mom. I want
Right.
him to do great, and it's my responsibility, and the guilt, and you know.
And the meaning,
Uh,
we're putting meaning on that, which is, I was just actually at the grocery store yesterday. The lady that was checking me out with my groceries, she was telling me how she's so proud of her son. He's home from college and he's working, 8 to 5 job, and she's working at the grocery store. And she says, I'm such a bad mom. And I said, first of all, you're not allowed to say that. I think you're in trouble because
uh,
you're not a bad mom. Your son is obviously being extremely successful. And so that means you're doing something really right. And so let's like kind of change the meaning for you, if we could, about what it means to be a good mom, and to not label yourself as this bad mom just because you feel, because she said she hadn't spent enough time with him. So that's why she was calling herself a bad mom. Even though she's working, he's working, like they're doing great productive things in the world. And so I said, I'm a parent coach. You're not allowed to say that. And she's like, okay, I'm sorry. But I
uh,
think about all the moms who they do that every day, and they don't have someone like you or me jumping in to like, help them see it for what it really is and not beat themselves up. Right.
create those magic moments, moms. Even
Yeah.
if it's 5 minutes a day, 20, 10, 20 minutes a day, create
Yeah.
magic moments, and that you make them feel like they matter. They feel that you are there for them.
Totally. I love that. Yes. And that's something I talk about a lot too. And that can look at different ways. It could be, I just did something on social media. It could be eye contact. Oh no, I haven't posted this one yet. It could be, a lot of times kids, they don't necessarily want to talk. So it could just be doing an activity together. It
Hmm.
could be like that side by side kind of parallel play or whatever, but it's just like the quality time. You and me, we could go on forever talking about these things, but I think the idea there is that it's not quantity, it's quality, and just like getting those few minutes in, whatever that looks like for them. And maybe your version of it is a different version of what they want. And so a lot of times it's kind of, you have to ask them like, what would be meaningful for you as far as our connection. There's so many directions you could go with that, but I did have a mom client who she just talked and talked and talked and talked, and she had a son, and she just said he doesn't respond. He just doesn't talk. And I'm like, well, he's a boy, and that's not like his method maybe of connecting with you. What if you asked him, what would it be? What would it look like to you to have a good mother-son connection, and see what he says? And so it's kind of like putting the ball in their court on what they want that connection to look like so they can have some ownership in the relationship.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And here we go, parents. Like the four pillars that I talk about is like you have to take care of yourself, you
Mm-hmm.
have to take care of your family, you have to bring God into your life,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's kind of like the glue.
Right.
And work matters. Work build us up. So
Mm-hmm.
your work, your family, you, and God. If
Ah,
you balance your life around those four pillars, you'll find peace.
I love. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, that's the perfect way where we could stop here because we could just talk forever. Well, Paola, thank you so much for coming on and talking to the moms group. And it's always great to see your smiling face, and you're always so full of like fun energy. And I just loved it. Do you have any last closing comments for the Moms Club?
Don't worry, moms. If you care, you're doing a good job. And there's always strategies and techniques that will get you to get to the next step. So keep up the good work, and blessings.
Perfect. Beautiful. All right.
Yeah.